might be live. Yes, we have a thing
We
that
are
says live
live.
there.
Good
Yeah,
morning.
good morning. This
Good
whole
morning.
live with guests, yeah, can be a little bit tricky. But it's really, really lovely to have you with us here this morning, Michael. It's really great that we managed to actually pull this together and get you here.
Yes, in spite of the technology, absolutely. Very glad to be here too.
Yeah, the technology has been testing everyone, I think, since we've been doing these lives. But like you said, hey, if we're going to run a conference, we need to kind of get over these things and get over ourselves and still show up no matter what kind of gets in the way to trip us up. We're still here.
Sure.
So it's really, really great to have you with us this morning. We would really love to hear a little bit about you and kind of introduce you to some of the people who have bought tickets to the conference and some people who are still on the edge a bit and deciding whether to or not. So do you want to tell us a little bit about you and what you might be
Sure.
bringing to our
Sure.
conference?
Sure. And just to those people who are on the edge of thinking about going to the conference, this is going to be an amazing 3 days. I mean, there's so much there already packed in. So I just really encourage you to buy your ticket now. And the fact you're getting one free for everyone you buy, I mean, my goodness, what value is that? So about myself, I'm a dad and I'm a granddad. I think that I see that as my primary role in life, and I'm also a coach. I love coaching, and particularly in the last 3 or 4 years since I've come across this understanding, my coaching has been transformed, and it feels like a place of real freedom to turn up and to be with amazing people. And I'm not just talking about my clients, I'm talking about my family and everybody in my life, just to turn up as kind of Michael without thinking that I've got to wear a particular hat or do a particular thing, but just simply turn up as I am with this understanding and the conversation that then evolves from that place and how I see people from that place is really extraordinary. And so, and it kind of, this sort of relates to the reason why I'm speaking at this conference and the subject that I've chosen to speak at the conference, because it's about feeling increasingly through this understanding in all my relationships to the world around me, is I feel increasingly at home. It's like in here, this body of mine, this thing called Michael, I feel just much, much more at ease. Like I feel settled, more at home, that quality. And I wanted to explore what that really meant and why I left home. Why it didn't feel like that for many, many years. So that's really kind of in a nutshell where I'm at in my life and how this understanding has really informed. And yeah, like I've embodied this. Well, I've always embodied it. That's the truth. I mean, I've never not embodied it, but now I see it as such in a way that I didn't before.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. I mean, our aim very much, the reason for me doing this conference and kind of actually taking this massive step and thinking, do you know what, just do this, is because when I came across this understanding, it had such an impact on me. And like you said, I'd been kind of living my life not at home with who I was, frightened of everything, really anxious about all sorts of things and not really connecting with that deeper truth of who I am. And very much the same, I am way, way, way more comfortable just being me. And it is the small things in a way that kind of make the massive difference. It might not look like much, but before we came on this call this morning, we were talking about being on this call, and you hadn't got the right browser to be here, and I hadn't sent you, the right information early enough and what have you. And I know there would have been a time I would have just gone into meltdown over that. I would have felt anxious. I would have felt guilty. I would have felt like I was lacking in my role, what I was doing, and then that would have shown speaking now. And okay, it might not sound like a huge thing, that it's kind of both of us just knew, hey, this is just okay. You can just show up as you and I can show up as me, and all the stuff that's happened that's just okay. And that might not sound absolutely huge, but to me, that is the difference that makes the difference in life. It is that, isn't it?
Yeah, I really get that. It's how it's shown in the ordinariness of life. You know, like you were saying just prior to this actual conversation, when I realized I didn't have Chrome and I didn't go into a mind freeze, which is what I would have done before. I would have got angry and would have gone into a mind freeze, and just would not have made it happen. Whereas my mind was so much clearer, and I just followed tick, 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 and I did all the right ticking in the right places, and here we are. So there was a sort of spaciousness quality about it that is very different. And I think that is what I'm experiencing in my life. There is this feeling of spaciousness. It's not because my life there's less in it. It's kind of how I receive it, because there's more space in here.
Yeah.
And it's not I'm not crowding myself with extraneous thoughts. I'm just trusting a lot more in what turns up. And so with this talk, in essence, what I'm describing is something that happened to me very young, when I was 8. I was a barefoot, brown-skinned boy running around the countryside of Mallorca, in freedom. This was freedom. I could play, creative play. I could do whatever I wanted. I came home to eat and swim in the pool and just head off with my friends and just play. And then I was sent away to boarding school in England. So there was a real shift in my sense of home, literally in my terms, in my environment. So without going through the whole details of that, something changed inside me where I started to look at my life in what felt right at the time, what looked right at the time, that I needed a whole bunch of things out there, including, I won't go into the detail now, but a whole bunch of things out there to make myself feel okay in here. And I worked really, really hard at that, to the point where the feeling of pressure inside just became a normality. I did all the right things, and I did all the right jobs, and I strove for everything, and it looked to me like the out there was what was going to make me feel okay in here, and it did to an extent. At times it dropped in there, and there was a good feeling, but most of the time it felt like huge effort, huge pressure, and and I wasn't really being true to myself. And I can see now, on reflection, when I look back over my life, I see you seem to have disappeared. But anyway, are you okay? I'm talking.
I think our video might have just
there?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Me to follow that. It took me towards closer and closer to finding my true home. Now, did you hear all that? Because you disappeared all of a sudden.
We heard all of that. Whether I don't know whether it went out live or not, but we didn't lose you at all. I know you lost us because our internet. I'm really sorry. Our internet is playing.
All right.
But another one of those things. Yeah.
So in essence, what I'm saying is, again, without describing the detail, which I'll give in the talk, I've seen now how my life has been suffused with wisdom. I didn't see at the time. I wouldn't have looked at it that way. I made decisions and choices based on something that was deeper than what I thought needed to happen. Something much more, just within me, my own sense of my own wisdom. And I now see that, because I could have gone down some really dangerous paths, and I could have been really very self-destructive. And to an extent I was, but something just kept pointing me in a certain direction. And until, 4 or 5 years ago, when I sort of came across this understanding, and then it all just like, it's like all the, like everything just settled down, and I understood fully what had been happening. And it was the beginning of really feeling truly at home within me. I started looking in a different direction. I've started to look within more intentionally, if you like, rather than, okay, what do I need out there to make me feel okay in here? And it was really, it transformed the way I saw and I see my life, and the way I am in relationship to my life, the people I love, and people who are in my life generally. And yeah, there's a sense of freedom and spaciousness that I experience, which is awesome. And I don't know why I had to wait till I was 60 to get this, but there you go.
Have you got anything?
I was just going to say, I'm not sure how much of the video anyone's actually seen because of us cutting out, but I felt a little bit like one of those nodding dogs in the back of a car. So much of what you were saying was like, oh, you might as well be telling my story, Michael. Yeah, so much of that really resonated with I love the way you talk about coming home and not being at home with yourself for a long time. Yeah.
And I think the great thing about, one of the great things I realized now is when I look back at that time, I was doing the very best I could given the way I saw things.
Yeah.
And I don't give myself.
My story.
I don't give myself a hard time, because it's, at the time it was absolutely the right thing to do. It felt the right thing to do, even though, but yeah, and here I am.
And and definitely for me, the conference is about getting this out to people. Beck hasn't had to wait till she's my age or your age to kind of come up.
Wonderful.
Yes, wonderful. It is, and it's kind of like it is, to me, it's like, let's get it out there to our young people. Let's have people see this way before me and you saw this. It's transformed my life completely, and it is, like you say, in the small places, it's just, but it has massive impact. And yet too many of us kind of strive to control the world out there, because that's where it feels like our safety comes from. And yet this morning, the video not doing what it was supposed to do, not being able to, we're still okay.
We're still okay. Awesome,
and our conference is still going to be brilliant.
It's a very strong illusion, isn't it? It looks very, very powerfully illusory that what we have to do is take care of the out there. And I think ordinarily, if you'd asked me to speak, I would, because my particular love is working with parents and children, and bringing this to that, if you like, that sector. But I just it really felt right to talk about my own coming home, and because it had such a profound initial impact to leave home on a physical level, literally environment, on a geographical level, that it set me off on a journey. And it was actually about 5 years ago. Yeah, about 5 years ago, when I was back in Mallorca with Michelle, and I was in the sea, which is my favorite place to be anyway, just to be in the sea. And this idea of coming home just came to me because I was in my geographical home, and everything about it, the sea, the smell of the pine, the quality of the light, all the things that I grew up with was just there. And this idea bubbled up inside as I was swimming, of coming home. And that's, I'm so glad to be able to kind of bring it now as a conversation, if you like, as a talk to others. And then it was sort of seeded in the ocean, in the Mediterranean.
Wow. I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, everybody that we've done these lives with, everyone that I've spoken, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for your talk. So
we might have to change the agenda so we can go to all
everything.
Well, I'm so grateful to be asked. Thank you. And I really, really, I've reached a point in my life where I don't even think about it anymore. I just say yes, and then maybe afterwards I might have a little bit of a panic inside. Is that the right thing to do? I can always say no again, but why not say yes? Why not just step in and say yes and see what happens? Why because not? As I said earlier, I just can turn up and see what happens. That doesn't mean I'm not going to have to do some preparation. So I'm not just ad-lib it completely, but I love the idea of being just turning up.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what we're all going to do, just because
unfold.
turn up, unfold, and trust, which is instead of this whole control, make sure everything's, it's just turn up, and definitely there is some preparation. We have booked the rooms at the we have booked the conference room at the hotel. We have sorted out microphones. We have approached speakers. There's stuff to do, but it's coming from a totally different way to how I've ever organised anything else. So let's see what happens. But it's been absolutely lovely to connect with you this morning. It's been a delight to listen to your story, to our story, to all of our story. I think the story of the human race, I think,
universal.
A really great universal story. I'm sure everyone can relate on some level to what it is you're saying. So.
And I just want to, from my part, I want to say thank you to you, to you all, because every time I speak to you, and we're kind of doing some stuff around this conference, it's so heartfelt, and it's just an abundance of smiles. It's just endless smiles from you guys. So it's been a real joy.
We're just having a great time.
It's been a real joy. Thank you.
No problem.
Fantastic.
Thank you. So I'm going to end the live broadcast now. But if anyone's got any questions for Michael or questions about the conference or anything like that, please do message this wherever this live ends up. Wherever the recording of this ends up, there'll be somewhere that you can get in touch, and we can get those questions. I know, as Michael said, he specializes with working with children and parents, and I know some people who've worked with Michael in that way, and he's brilliant. So if you want to talk to him, or you want to talk to us, or you want to know more about the conference, please feel free to get in touch wherever it is that you're watching this. So
you can find us on debrasimmons.co.uk and get in touch through there.
You can indeed.
Fantastic.
All right then. So thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you for watching, and see you all again soon.
Bye.
Bye.